time for another Elsie's Little Pickles, the pickle pod for the people, reminding you to please take part in our pickle protest. That's a simple task. All you got to do is grab a pickle, throw it on a MAGA supporter's porch, take a picture of it, and send it to us at Elsie's, Elsie's Little Pickles at gmail.com.
Put it on his little brim hat.
Yeah, you put it wherever you want. You can get a little gherkin and have it hanging. This is actually a very, very special episode for us. Yep, you can definitely do that. I will go.
We made it.
Yeah, this is our 100th episode.
100.
Yeah, so that's a big milestone.
Or, as Mr. Trump would say, there are many shows.
There's so many shows.
In the way of shows, there were many.
I saw this show. I think it's Elsie's Little Gherkins. I can't remember. But I heard they're on their 100th episode.
You get me with that every fucking time, you little shit. So yeah, this is a big one. So we're going to do things a little bit different. Yes, we will do the news, and there will be a little bit of politics, but ultimately what we thought we would do is, because there's been questions like, how did we come up with a name? So we've had some listeners, curious what the background was, why Elsie's Little Pickles, why there's not anyone here named Elsie. We're going to do a little bit of retrospective on
why the pickles,
and how we kind of came to the idea of doing this. And then we'll do that later. But I don't want people to miss out on the most important part of their day, pickle news.
Well, looking into the brine, we have flight bookings from Canada to the U.S. have plummeted over 72%.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I heard a lot of like vacation homes and like Airbnbs and hotels, especially in the Northeast, but all over like the northern half of the U.S.
Yeah,
have just absolutely tanked as far, because they would get a lot of tourists from Canada that would like vacation in Maine or vacation in New Hampshire or wherever.
Yep.
And
he said
so
it was
many
just going to
cancellations.
Be, yeah, well, there's going to be some short-term pain. We know that. In short term, we're going to have a little bit of pinch, a little pain. Fuck you. This is going to be devastating for people.
We're marching headstrong into a recession right now.
Oh, we are heading into a Trump session.
Yeah, it's a Trump session. But there's even talk, I've heard, of a depression. They'll never admit that that's what it is. You'll never
know
hear
what
that.
The distinction is? Because I know a recession is 2 quarters of continual degrowth of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
Is a depression like a full fiscal year?
I don't know.
Degrowth?
I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know what classifies that exactly. Let me see. Continue with the news and I'll see if I can find out.
Well, in other news, Sweden is deploying its Gripen fighter jets to NATO air defense bases.
Sweden deploying the Gripen fighters.
That's right. They were specifically made to actually target Russian aircraft.
Cool. I refer
as
back
far south as Poland now.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
I every time I hear something about a Scandinavian country, specifically Sweden, because I think it was Sweden and Russia, I just remember the fucking underwater sign, because there were Russian subs in their like sea area, and they put underwater neon signs that said Sweden gay since 1977 or something.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that.
Like if you're gay, come this way.
Yeah. And all these Russians are like, I can't go that way. It says if I go that way, I'm gay. I do not want to be gay. Economic depression is a prolonged and severe downturn in economic activity. While there's no universally agreed upon definition, that's why we didn't know it. It is generally characterized by significant decline in GDP, a sustained drop in gross domestic product over an extended period, usually multiple years. High unemployment, mass layoffs, and unemployment rates often reach double digits. Reduced consumer spending, banking and financial sector failures, deflation or severe inflation, decline in international trade, increased bankruptcies. Well, look.
Well, we're in a recession. We're in a Trump session.
I would say that they're already talking about not, or having a GDP that goes down for him. You're seeing unemployment because of him. I don't think the unemployment numbers in general are up. I'm not sure on
Not
that.
yet.
But they will be.
Yeah, they will be.
You're already seeing
With,
the
245%, was it, in February?
What was that? Say again?
245%.
What?
Unemployment went up in February.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Well, I know we're at as far as because part of the definition that you were explaining was consumers saving as much money as possible and not spending it.
Reduce consumer spending.
We are at a 12-year low for consumer confidence in the economy.
Well, like I said, I mean, the fact of the matter is that, they came out and said that the tariff policy was going to be potentially painful for a short period of time. And I don't know what they consider a short period of time. But I'm watching the stock market eat shit on the daily.
Yeah, and Elon can't help himself but cry on Fox News about how it's so hard. It's so hard to run my businesses.
Yeah.
And at the same time, be the shadow president. Speaking of which, I got a notification earlier from AP. You know what that fucker did?
He sold he sold
Twitter to his own company.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. He sold Twitter or X to
himself
at a profit. At a fucking profit.
Oh my God.
How is that legal?
I don't know.
It shouldn't be. I don't know if it is, but if it is legal, it shouldn't be.
Which to me, all that means is he wanted to take out 40, because I think he sold it for 45 and I think he paid 44, if I remember correctly. And the thing that kills me about it is, okay, I get it. You wanted to get your personal money back out. Okay.
Sell your shares then.
Could have done that.
Yeah.
Be a man. Sell your shares, crash the company.
Yeah.
What that tells me, though, is that he's getting hard up for money.
Yeah, I think he's not as liquid as he'd like to be after losing, what was it, 220 billion?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting thing to stick on for a second. Once he bought Twitter, it's just been a siphon. It's been a money siphon for him, right?
Yeah, and it's gone, and not only has it gone downhill in the quality. Okay.
Yeah, it's a bullshit product anymore. It's just not, like, no one's investing. But he even bottomed out his shares, like what he could sell without like scaring off investors in Twitter and Tesla.
Really?
And I think also SpaceX.
Really?
He bottomed out what he could possibly sell without scaring away investors.
Well, okay. Maybe he won't be the world's richest man for long.
Yeah, maybe he will not be the world's first trillionaire, but I
doubt that. I think he will be. I think he will be.
I don't want that to fall on Bezos for sure. Like,
no, and I don't want
slightly less. He's slightly less Hitlerite, but like he's still a Hitlerite.
Yeah, but you know what though? I mean, like, really, you don't see much about Bezos though anymore. You see him, like fucking being a baller on his yacht with his fucking second wife. Both of them are,
in the damn cue ball.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, from the geek that he was to kind of the jacked billionaire that he became, good for him.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like
with Bezos, there's I used to work for Amazon. I've heard stories. One of the things Amazon has done, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but they have started a pharmacy.
Yes.
Yeah, I was aware of that because they want to rival Mark Cuban's whatever. I forget the name of the company, but
well, this was being talked about when I worked for Amazon, and the speech we got from Bezos on video was that he was not happy with drug prices and felt that he could muddle the water and lower everything by force.
You know what? I mean,
his words were literally, you shouldn't have to pay an exorbitant amount of money to be healthy.
Yeah.
Which is fair, but at the same time, he's going to do the same thing with, and this is just the tendencies of a billionaire. This is the psychotic tendencies of a billionaire. What he's really going to do with that is the same thing he did to all of the independent bookstores. So because of big pharmacies, national chains like CVS and Walgreens and, so on and so forth, Walmart, Costco pharmacy, there are no independent single location mom and pop drugstores anymore.
Well, there are.
There
They're few and far between compared to what
Yes.
they used to be. You know what I mean?
And on top of that, because they're national level chains, not that they've fully extinguished the local pharmacy, but they have. Let's be real here.
They have, and the quality is shit. And the
what
fact
Bezos
of the matter
wants to do is the same thing that he did with independent bookstores, where he undercuts them on price to where there's only a couple players anymore, and then jack up the price.
Yeah,
same thing.
And I could definitely see him doing that with any prescription type thing. I think, look, they're in the business of making money, no matter what. Okay,
they're in the business of developing a monopoly.
Yeah, I mean, essentially. Well, and part of that is because as soon as you go public, I guess it would be different if it was a private company, maybe, and it was just like him doing it because he wanted to lower prices, and I just want to break even. That's all I care about, break even, right?
Mhm.
Maybe make a couple bucks. If he did that as a solo company,
he makes plenty of money elsewhere, so like he could do that.
He could do that, but what ends up happening is that you're obligated to continuously, as soon as you go on the exchange, especially, and you have investors, you're obligated by law as a fiduciary to try to do everything you possibly can to make that money go up 3 to 5% minimum per year. Like that's the game as soon as you get into being a publicly listed company. And it's also the game if you have investors, right? So
yeah, if he actually cared about bringing down drug prices for, the majority of Americans, what he would do is make Amazon RX its own nonprofit separate from Amazon. Because then there is no competition, there is no rat race, there is no money incentive in that.
Again,
aside from just replacement.
You're not going to get an argument from me on that. I think that's just, unfortunately, it's when you're put in a position as a business owner that you have no choice because you'll get your fucking company sued out from underneath you. When you enter into that circumstance where you have to show to the best of your ability profits, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't always happen. I mean, that's why you see stocks go down, you see stocks go up, you see it's a gamble. It's literally, the stock market is like Vegas. Okay?
Yeah, if the line doesn't go up, then you're losing money.
You're losing money, right? So, never bet against the house is kind of the idea. Well, as soon as you enter that game, you're the house. And you better not be losing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But again, we live in a world where economic decisions on the entire United States are being made by one of the only men in, I believe, history that could bankrupt a casino.
Yeah, and not to jump right in with something so heavy, but like this is the poison of capitalism, in the sense of he's right in what he said. Bezos, in that no one should be going bankrupt for life-saving medicine. Right. No one should be having to choose between the light bill and their health.
I agree.
And I'm totally with him on that. But because of how he has established Amazon Pharmacy, that's the only thing that can happen. Like, maybe it's not happening right this second. Maybe his prices are competitive. Maybe he is undercutting the big chains and turning a profit. But before too long, it'll be Amazon Pharmacy versus CVS.
Yeah.
And those are your two choices.
Well, and again,
both of them have outrageous prices.
Walgreens and CVS made the mistake, right, of, what's the other one? It was Walgreens, CVS, and Rite Aid. Okay, those three companies made the mistake of going Starbucks on all of us.
Yeah.
They were on every fucking corner. Every time you turned it around, a new one was being built. They never had enough employees. And for, if no other reason than this, they should go bankrupt. The size of their fucking receipts. I don't need 4.5 to 5.5 feet.
They do it as a signature, CVS. They do it on purpose.
But there's no call for this. You know what I mean? Like, if you're worried about your bottom line, why don't you start on your fucking cost of receipt paper?
I bought 2 items at a local Rite Aid here last week, and my receipt was about 1.5 feet long for 2 items.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Anyway.
I was shaking my head earlier, not because of the show, but because, of course, as soon as we start recording, my little dog is crying.
Oh, okay.
I'm starving.
Yeah, we can't hear him. So cry away, you little mutt. I was
Yeah,
wondering what the
I'm
face
starving him to death, and he hasn't been fed in 45 minutes.
A whole 45 minutes? He's made it this long?
Yeah, he went to sleep. Now he woke up and he's crying.
Yeah, because that's what he does, right? If I'm not mistaken, the little one wakes up.
Careful! He might establish a revolution for the conquest of bread.
He is so frustrating. Anytime if I'm not doing anything, he's quiet. As soon as I start doing something, whether it's in the bathroom or cooking or
cooking in the bathroom.
I try to multitask.
Yeah.
Smells like beef and nachos in there.
I could sit on the toilet and move the skillet and the spatula. It would probably be more like fajita seasoning.
Fajita seasoning. Careful, it's hot.
Oh, shit. Oh, the visuals.
It's not hot unless, it's an after effect. If my butthole isn't burning, it wasn't hot enough.
All right, enough about your asshole.
You're fascinated.
Yeah, you caught me. All right.
Trump is being sued by 2 more big law firms that he has targeted under executive orders. Because Jenner and whatever that he targeted the other day, they're suing Trump. And
wait, I'm sorry. Say it again. Because I just cut out for a second.
Okay.
I don't know. My cord I got a problem with. So he's getting sued.
It's my first day.
Yeah. So he's getting
2
sued.
more. Go ahead.
No, he's getting sued by who?
2 more large law firms.
Because of the bullshit of the Trump administration trying to come after them for just doing their fucking job?
Yes.
Good.
Wilmer Hale, which is a law firm, is suing. Jenner and Block is suing. And Perkins Coie.
I got to be honest with you. I think that with the law firms specifically, but also with like the educational system, I think they need to do like a group lawsuit, all of them.
Yeah, like because I don't see action.
Yeah, I don't see what fucking point there is in the president of the United States fucking with law firms.
Oh, I can tell you exactly what it is. If we look back to history, Hitler attacked law firms that were not favorable to him. Mussolini did the same. Franco did the same. Fucking
I did not know that.
German Mao did the same.
I did not
Stalin
know that.
did the same.
And Trump did they do the same with
he put in an order so that you couldn't sue unless you put up you fronted the money for the lawsuit entirely.
Right.
To help prevent this from happening. And these law firms are like, yeah, and?
So they're just going to do that? They're just going to put up the money?
Yeah, they already have.
Good.
But I do agree with you. It should be a class action thing.
Much, much more than it is. I mean, look, whether you're talking Columbia and what went on there and that bullshit, I mean, I don't see where he has any fucking right to be telling them what their curriculum's supposed to be.
As I heard today, actually, on NPR,
they
had Hakeem Jeffries on.
No.
And he was all fire and brimstone.
Yeah, but he's still a Timu Obama in many ways. You know what I mean?
But what he said, though, was prophetic, because he mentioned what's going on right now is their administration is throwing 1,000 things at the news all at once.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the Steve Bannon strategy.
Yeah, it's Bannon.
And they're trying to create confusion so that instead of having a united front against him, they have to separate and try to fight individually.
Right.
Yeah,
and they need to stop doing that.
Every state's Department of Education should file a class action lawsuit on behalf of the federal Department of Education. Every law firm affected by Trump should file a class action lawsuit.
Law firm. Every law firm that had anything to do with any of the Trump lawsuits should be suing him as a class action. And I'd go so far as to say every law firm that could even potentially have to deal with the federal government should be suing him, because what he's
any
doing
law firm
is
that has ever argued in the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I mean,
at a federal level.
Yes, absolutely. They should all band together and bring a fucking monster of a lawsuit. And I would have all the heavy hitters working together on that shit. Because I guarantee you, no matter how well they think that they're going to do, Trump's group, I'm
just going to put it out there. Getting into a legal fight with a group of lawyers, probably not a smart idea.
A great idea. And look, we've got a lawyer in our family, and I can tell you just from my experience with him, the last thing I want to do is get into a fucking legal argument with him. You know what I mean? I don't want to get into an argument with him anyway. He's a great guy. But if I were to get into a dispute, no matter how good I am at arguing my point, and even if all of the evidence is on my side, he's a great lawyer. I'm going to lose that fucking argument.
Which,
and when you're going up against big bad Pam Bondi, oh, come on, fucking bitch, please.
Speaking of the lawyer in our family, I will not disclose his name just for his privacy. Will not be needing a conversation with him. I did finally get my last commission.
Oh, good.
It was a pittance, but I simply am not interested in pursuing it any further. I got what I was owed.
All right, Bill, that's good there.
Yeah.
All right.
And in the last bit of news, both Serbia and Croatia are firing up their military and using conscripts to train people. Now, I know a lot of people get a little antsy when they hear conscripts. However, for particularly Serbia, the conscription will be 75 days.
Okay.
And Croatia is 2 months.
Again, look, no one likes the idea of conscripts, right? You don't want them just being pulled off the streets and fucking thrown into a back of a
abolish
vehicle.
the draft system entirely. We shouldn't still have it.
No. However, when you're a smaller country, especially, and you have a smaller population and you have military need, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask those who are of age to spend 2 months, 3 months.
I would agree if it weren't for the fact that conscripts are usually like 18 to 22-year-olds.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's...
At least, I don't know how they run it in Serbia or Croatia. Maybe they have a different age range, but in America, I can't burn my draft card until I'm 35, I think.
Yeah. But, I mean, at the end of the day, like, even at my age, if it was a president, first off, if it was a president that I agreed with, because like all the shit that he's doing, he's just picking fights, and I'm not gonna go to war with a Canadian. That ain't fucking happening. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I would never in a million years serve.
You have more in common with the average Canadian than you do with anyone in Trump's cabinet.
You know it, eh?
Apparently, by the way, speaking of that, with Canada, apparently there was a phone call today between Trump and Mark Carney, who's the Canadian leader right now.
Yeah, the PM.
And it did
soon to be PM.
Trump.
It didn't.
Apparently, Carney tore him an asshole.
Really?
Good.
Like 2 or 3 on the phone.
Really?
And, yeah. I don't have any official word on this, but it has fallen onto my lap saying that Trump actually hung up.
Good.
So funny to me
Good.
that Canadian MAGA almost won this election.
Yeah.
Because Trudeau wasn't good. But it's so funny to me how, as much as I dislike liberals, no matter where they are, for their ideology, not necessarily them individually, of course, but the Liberal Party of Canada was able to completely flip that around because of Trump.
No, yeah. I mean, look, the thing is that what he has in his back pocket is an entire Canadian population saying, fuck that guy. And we don't care. And we will cancel our Airbnb. And we'll cancel our travel plans. And
we will stop buying American liquor.
We'll stop buying American liquor. And how dare you do that to us? We've been your friend forever.
Is that the Canadian people are not attacking American people.
No, it's focused on Trump.
They get it. They get it.
They understand.
Yeah.
You know, but I think but it is like that. It's that thing where it's like you're best friends with somebody for years, right? And then they do the exact thing that they know is you're just igniting a fire that you don't need to ignite. And then surprised when the person who's been offended goes, I know where you hide all your bodies, bitch. And I'm not dealing with that. And you know, like, oh my God, you're talking back to me. Oh, click.
Well, there's a live streamer that I watched, a political live streamer that put it beautifully, and I genuinely am of this opinion. He said very succinctly that other countries, specifically in this context, Canada, are actually willing as a country to put their foot down on something and stage a boycott, whereas Americans are too worried about getting our sweet little treats from China.
Yeah. I don't think
effectively stage any kind of like action.
The only way that the American public is going to boycott anything is if it is prevented from coming into the country on a federal level, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the only way, because none of us, you know, more this, more food, more you know, we're just obsessed with purchasing, right? But what's happening, you know, you saw it with Jack Daniels, you're seeing it with craft beer, with the tariffs. Craft beer companies are having to make decisions on whether to raise the price or whether to absorb it somehow,
or downsize,
or go out of business. So you're seeing the impact, and it takes time. You know what I mean? Like, it does take time. But that that I've been talking about for the last 2 months, it's starting to show. So when you have companies like Jack Daniels going, oh, we are fucked. We are fucked.
It's okay. Don't worry. It's okay. Don't worry. Because they're going to get bailed out because they're an American company. Well, they're an American staple company. They're going to get bailed out because it's socialism for we and not for thee.
Exactly. And that's exactly where I was going with it. How many of these big companies are going to eat shit and then come hat in hand to the fucking...
tears in their eyes.
Yeah, the big, strong guy carrying a barrel of Jack Daniels.
Mr. Jack Daniel, tears in his eyes.
He came out of the grave. I said, Sir, I've got a tear in my eye, and it's whiskey flavored. Yeah, it's just...
He's going to be so mad, he's going to kick that safe, affect his toe and die.
For our American listeners that don't want to agree or don't want to see that that's the case, I will point you to the multiple times that Harley Davidson was bailed out by the federal government, and we, the taxpayer, absorbed that cost because they're an American staple. They're an American brand.
Yeah, so that it will be...
they're an American brand.
Selling shit in your town, they'll help you party down. They're an American brand. So sorry, I had to just do the follow-up on it. I couldn't resist.
And for any guitar players, this happened with Gibson. This has happened with Gibson guitars. And I love Gibson guitars. But I love Gibson guitars. They have their issues. I'm not going to pretend like they don't have their issues, but I love them. You know, but you have to recognize that we absorbed the cost of bailing them out of bankruptcy.
Well, look, my argument on this entire thing would be, you fucking Republicans prevented student loans from being wiped out. Don't you fucking come to me as a taxpayer and go, we're going to help Jack Daniels because it's an American institution. You know what else is an American institution? Fucking education. You know what's too expensive? Education. You know what? Let Jack Daniels figure that shit out themselves. Yeah, let them figure it out.
I can go without their piss.
Yeah, I can definitely. I won't miss Jack Daniels not being available. There are people who will.
Number 7, baby.
There are people who will. Whatever. But here's the fact. You showed your colors.
Number 7. Your first 6 sucked.
Yeah.
So does the 7th.
You came straight out as a party and tried to say, all the reasons why. Well, it's not fair to people who did pay their fucking their loans off. It's not this. It's not. All right. You know what? It's not fair to the companies that can keep their fucking doors open. So no,
they don't need corporate socialism.
They don't need it. They don't need corporate socialism at all. They don't. You want to see if you can make it happen? Put some more stocks out there. See who buys. You know what I mean? Like, fuck you. You made it clear.
Say what you will. I to be fair, I don't know the details of this company, but Old Forester didn't ever need a corporate bailout from the government, a corporate socialism.
Right. So I'm sorry.
Old Forester didn't need it. Pappy Van Winkle didn't need it, but Jack Daniels is going to need it. So
let them figure it out. You know what I mean? Because when you made that clear that corporate socialism was fine, and we saw that all of them stepping all over their dicks during the Great Recession, right? Bailing out companies and bailing out banks. And then we saw it again with COVID, and you saw the fucking loans that were being forgiven and all that stuff. So we've done this now twice in the last, 20 years? And it's always been for corporations. One time it comes up for fucking students and it gets shut down. Yep. Fuck you. No more. I'm going to be saddled.
I'm going to be saddled as a young professional with fucking $60,000 of debt that I have to pay off.
Right. So you know what? Fuck you. Fuck your corporations. Fuck your American brand. Fuck off. You're not getting. I mean, that will be one of those things where, like, when the corporations start coming to the government hat in hand looking for a bailout, that is something that will fucking get me riled up big time.
Yeah, Irish whiskey's better anyway.
Oh, way better.
The new Social Security changes, which happen, I guess, Monday, will be requiring in-person identity verification.
Oh yeah, and I don't know if you saw, but Trump and Elon, I should say, because it's both of them. They're already not only on Social Security, but they're making moves in the direction of requiring either a birth certificate or a driver's license at every polling location. Whenever you go to vote, you need to bring that, which not everyone has a driver's license. Not everyone has a state ID. Not everyone can afford to get a replacement birth certificate.
You know what, though? I tell you, that's an argument that I've never understood on both sides, okay? On both sides, because quite frankly, I got to believe that it's not as difficult as you think to get a state ID. I got to believe that
I can explain that.
Well, hold on. I get that. You know what I mean? Like, I get the justifications, but on both sides, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. I think this is just a fight over nothing.
Well, I can explain to you exactly why it's not a fight over nothing. Because the majority of people that do not have a driver's license, a state ID, or a social security card, or a birth certificate on hand are people of color, whether they're black, whether they're, poor Mexican, or, whatever. They're
no, and I get that, but I mean,
socioeconomic class.
To participate in fucking life, you kind of have to have ID.
I'm not saying that you don't need ID to participate in life. But what I am saying is we've also made it incredibly difficult for people to get time off to go dick around at Secretary of State for half a day or a full day.
Not going to argue that.
If you have bills due at the end of the month, if you don't know how you're going to make those bills, and you have to work every hour you possibly can, you cannot afford to waste a day at Secretary of State.
Well, again, I mean, like I said, I see the argument on both sides, but I do believe that this is a bit of hoopla for the TV cameras more than it is actually. I mean, like, I can't believe that the two sides can't come to some sort of formed agreement on that.
Well, and I'll point out, you need a Social Security number to get a voter registration. I'll point that out as well.
Yeah. Again, I don't disagree with you. You know what I mean? You
have to be an American citizen
to have
to be able to vote.
Yeah, I mean,
what about the people that are 200 years old voting?
I'm not saying that both sides don't have a bit of correct to them. Okay, a bit of a good argument, but all the bullshit around those arguments, I think this is something that they put out there because it's a dog and pony show that both sides Democrats and Republicans, are using as fun. It's a cash cow. It's a this is fundraiser fucking talk. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm not interested in that.
My opinion is I'm kind of whatever when it comes to ID, because in Texas, I voted several times now in Texas, and I always have to show my ID.
Well, like I said, I see both. I see both sides of it. What pisses me off is that there's the reason why it's not solved is not because it's a hard problem. It's not solved because it's a cash cow and it's a fundraising fucking thing that both parties use, and it's bullshit. That's not the argument we should be having. It's not moving our country forward. It's not helping anyone. It's not making anything better.
Well, also, I do just want to also point out, as far as the argument that you should have to show a birth certificate, social security card, or state ID or driver's license at a polling location, all of those cost money to get.
It's
not much. I grant you, not much. But for someone that doesn't know whether they're going to be able to pay rent and the light bill,
well, there's an easy solution to that. Okay,
you make those free.
You make them free.
Yeah, that's the easy solution. And then guess what? If it was free and you were able to take time off to go get that, okay, I'm fine with having to show one of those.
And that right there could be the solution. All Congress has to do is pass a bill that says if you do not have ID, one of these forms of ID, you can't vote. We're not going to prevent you from getting them. And we're not going to let your social economic situation prevent you from getting them. So under this law, you're allowed by law, federal law, to take an entire day off so that you can take your time and get your shit together. And by the way, the only thing you're paying for is the ride there, whether that's the gas in your own car or whether that's a fucking Uber. The only thing that you're required to take care of on this is getting there. Okay.
Yeah, and if that were the case, I would have no problem with them saying you have to show ID at voting locations. But barring that.
But this is my point.
It's a low bar for us because we're of an economic privilege.
But this is one of those things where it's like, this doesn't move the conversation forward in the country unless you go, okay, I will give you, Republican, everyone has to have a state ID. In return, you're going to give us free.
State IDs are free.
State IDs are free. Driver's licenses are free.
Yeah.
Birth certificate reprints are free. Social Security, free. And you're going to give us up to 2 days for that shit to be taken care of, where
I would even argue employer paid time off to go do that.
Well, no, that's my point. Paid time off. You should by law be able to take a day or two off to get all those things done. Now, as a Democrat, if I say that to a Republican, are they going to say, you betcha, and let's sign this, and now we don't fundraise off of this anymore? Or are they going to fucking go, oh, we can't afford that? Well, you know what? That little piece of plastic,
socialism.
That little piece of plastic that shows either a state ID or a driver's license, that doesn't cost anything hardly at all to fucking print up. It's fucking a Social Security card. Are you kidding? That doesn't cost anything to print up.
It costs pennies, but you have to pay what? I don't know, because I've never had to have it reprinted, but probably $50 or $100.
I don't even think it's that. I don't think it's that much. I think I don't even know if you had to pay for that, because I did get one reprinted and I don't recall paying.
But either way,
the point being, I'll work with you, Republican. This is what we need to get this done. You get what you want. I get what I want. That's called negotiating. That's called fucking being a legislator. That's called being a leader.
That's called getting shit done for the country.
Exactly. And then moving on to the next problem. That's my whole fucking issue with Republicans and Democrats and the tribal bullshit these fucking days. It's asinine on every fucking level. Asinine. There are problems that they could sit down and fix, but they're fucking stupid, and they want to be childish little bitches rather than stand up and go, all right, this problem's taken care of. We worked together. Oh my God. How will our base handle this? How will are we going to lose donation money because we worked with the other side of the aisle?
It's become party over country.
It is totally party over country.
Which is
and
why
even
factions
beyond that,
and lobbying are bullshit.
And even beyond that, okay, even beyond that, it's not just party over country. It's me over my party over my country, because I have to get.
I'm mad as hell. I'm not gonna take it anymore.
I have to get reelected. Fuck off. Every one of them deserves a dick broken off in their asses.
You get reelected by getting shit done, not by.
That's not how they do that, though, anymore. No. Now you get reelected because...
It's all about the clips.
It's because you got all the clips online, because your name is on everyone's tongue, whether they like you or dislike you. Your name recognition. Marjorie Taylor Greene, there's no excuse for that fucking big bull dyke cunt to be in fucking Congress at all. None.
One of the things that I've been...
She needs to take her 3 fucking toes on each fucking foot, put some hush puppies on, walk her ass out of the fucking building, and find someone to figure out how to make her look like a fucking human. Exactly.
One of the things that I keep thinking about is the Republican town hall meetings, where the Republicans scurry away when the questions start pouring in. One of the tactics, I think, Democrats or anybody else, third party, needs to start doing is show up.
Yeah.
Your candidate, show up. As soon as that Republican scurries away, take over.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Fighting.
You know what? I don't even think you have to be a candidate. I'm going to start looking for these fucking town halls, and when the candidate fucking scurries away, I'm going to shout out, all right, let's all gather back around for a moment. Oh, wait, they won't let us use this room. I'm going to be standing outside. I got a couple things to say, and let's see who agrees with me.
We've got a public parking lot, and I have a truck bed.
Let's go, bitches. Let's fucking go.
Everybody, grab your pitchforks.
Yeah, it's time. It's fucking time. This is what we were talking about with, with it's time to start a new party. At some point, everyone goes to these things, and you know what they're looking for? I've heard this time and time again. They're looking for somebody to tell them what's next, what to do, how to do it.
You know what the party has become? Republicans, that is. It's literally the KKK out of Django, where they've all got the
can't see fucking shit out of this mask.
Who fucking put these together? That was my wife. She worked all goddamn day for you assholes.
Don't ask me or mine for nothing.
I'm going home.
But speaking of,
if Tom ain't wearing his, I ain't wearing mine.
I think the masks were a good idea.
I'm not saying that they weren't a good idea. I just think that we need to rethink on how we put them on, or whatever the line was.
So speaking of those episodes, I don't know that I don't remember if we ever actually broke it to the audience, but I just wanted to make a point and say that all of the policy principles that we came up with together, not only did we come up with them together, but I know we were planning on talking about this at one point or another, breaking it to the audience. All of the points that I brought up were my own principles that I've developed on my own over the years of my
I think we did talk about that. And the fact is that for those who, if we didn't do that, let's clear that error right away. I reached out to you and you were willing to do that, and you got all of your principles together in about 20 minutes.
Off of my own head. I
prompted ChatGTP to certain principles that I wanted, and refined under the guise of a new political party. I spent about 20 minutes doing that. And the odd thing was how much crossover there was.
Yeah.
So that tells you that you're on the right track, son. And thank God young people are, like you, are out there speaking about politics, because there's a whole generation that's still sitting there going, I don't like any of this. I want to get involved, and I don't even know what the fuck to do because it wasn't taught to me. Civics hasn't been taught. Government wasn't taught. History wasn't taught.
I appreciate the praise, but I don't want it. I want change.
Yes. Well, that's what this is about. Finding change.
Me and my cheese has got something to say.
I bet you do, but it's time to shift gears. Like I said, this is the 100th episode of Elsie's Little Pickles, or as we like to lovingly refer to it, ELP. And while early on we did discuss this, very early on we did discuss kind of like how we came up with the name, what the whole purpose was of the podcast. But I figure, 100 episodes in, we didn't think that we'd make it this far, and yet here we are. And I think, we've gotten enough questions on it that it's worth talking about. So the reason for the name Elsie's Little Pickles mainly is because when our mother, Colton's grandmother, passed away, Kiefer and I had the daunting task of clearing out the house. And they had been in that house, like 50 years almost. Yeah, about 50 years.
Since
67?
68?
Yeah, 67. So, as anyone who's ever had to clear out a house that somebody's lived in that long knows, specifically towards the end of their life, they tend to pack rat stuff, right? Especially when you're talking about somebody that grew up not during the Great Depression, but
in the immediate aftermath.
Aftermath and grew up on a farm and, struggled, So while our grandfather, your great grandfather, was a brilliant man, an engineer, there wasn't really work for that, right? So he made his living essentially as a farmer, mainly pigs, but also as a mechanic out of the barn. So he would just go into his barn, like people would just bring their cars, and this is going back to, he would be working on, Model Ts that, you had the crank and like he would take out transmissions, take out engines, just
fix your crank for $20.
Yeah. Broke his arm once on a crank coming back at him. So, and still continued to work. That's that tough old kind of
mentality of it.
That was the mentality.
Yeah, I mean, if he didn't, who would?
Exactly. And he knew it didn't matter that he had a broken arm. He had mouths that he had to feed. So he just, got it. I don't even think he had it casted. I think he just had it basically taped up at the doctor.
Just and get it set and get back to work.
And he was back at it.
Dirt on it.
But through that,
walk it off.
Through that, one of the things that Elsie, our mother, learned was food preservation. Canning specifically. And so she had a bunch of her own canning recipes, but then she had one recipe in particular for bread and butter pickles that she had refined and refined and refined over the years. And it was literally the gift that people looked forward to at Christmas time, because like she would give it to neighbors as like it's like, I don't have money to be buying, I don't have money to be buying neighbors Christmas gifts and stuff like that, but I can do this. And she did. So during the summer, Keith and I would be her little migrant laborers, and she would, this is no bullshit. Like she would take us out to U-Pick farms, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she would
take the cucumber, Mr. Steve.
Yeah, exactly. So she would literally try to make it like it was an adventure, right? So at that time, about 20 miles from where we grew up, nothing but farmland, right? And
little known fact, before me, there was another child who was sent out to pick cucumbers and strawberries, but Steve had them deported.
I did. I had them.
They got me.
I didn't like that one. He was lippy.
All dice. Hey, I think we got an illegal here.
Yeah. So, but this is what she would do. So it didn't matter what it was. If there was the opportunity for U-Pick farm, we were on that farm and we were in those fields and we were picking as little kids. I mean, I remember this as early as like 4 years old, 5 years old. And I know we had you out there as a baby, and then as you were able to, and as you grew, you started picking also. But I mean, she would be out there too. It wasn't like she was just sitting under an umbrella, cracking a whip. I mean, she was getting down.
Hey, my boys, get busy.
She was getting down with it too. And oftentimes she would do this with her friends or with our aunt, and then we'd have more kids. So at one point we had, and it was a big deal day, right? It was like we were going to get a lot done that day. We were hitting like cucumber fields, we were hitting blueberries and I think strawberries all in the same day because they were right like near each other. And so we had like, I don't know, 10 kids, right? And we went to town. Now, in the course of all this, it did teach us a lot of things. One, it taught us, how to be a migrant worker. It taught us hard work pays off, like all those things. And then when we
work and patience,
right. But
It
she would
love that we got was equal to how much we picked.
Yep. If you only had a bushel, you were not eating that night. But what would end up happening is, especially with pickles, that was like her specialty and what everyone loved. So she would go overboard making pickles, like to the point you're like, how the fuck are you going to even get rid of all these? And every year we'd be out by
lean out. Yeah.
We were done with pickles, except for what she would hold back for us by January 1st. Right. So you'd have the season and then it would be like
mid to late summer.
Yeah, mainly mid-summer. So it was like June, July was when we did a lot of the picking. We did it in August too, but mainly June and July. And all the way up until school started, right? So we would go out, we'd pick, and then we'd bring it home. And then the next day we would have to clean everything, right? So that was just part of the deal was, like
cleaning 200 pounds of cucumbers.
Oh, yeah. And that's no joke. You know what I mean? Like we would have 4 or 5 bushels of pickles because she did other types too. She did dill and whatever, but the main one was the bread and butter. So as we're emptying out the house, she had years ago stopped canning just because she wasn't physically able to do it anymore. So she had stopped years ago and had lost the recipe.
Yeah, which I have never tasted Elsie's pickles.
Right. We're actually, I'm
24 years old. I have never tasted Elsie's pickles. And
so what ended up happening was, as me and Kiefer are going through everything, I find the pickle recipe, right? And there's only 3 people on the planet who could appreciate this find. And that's me, Kiefer, and then there was a girl that we were raised with that was like a sister to us named Jill. 4 people. Jody too. I think Jody would have. So anyways, I made my copy and I sent Jill the original along with her baton from when she was a drum major. And that was something else. My mom, our mom, your grandma, she used to teach baton drill group for the high school. Right.
Yeah.
So we were always
color guard.
Yeah. So we always had, in the side yard, we always had all these students that were coming over that were part of band or whatever and learning, you'd have the girls that were learning how to twirl a baton. You'd have the guys that were trying to learn how to, practice their big drums and whatnot. So it was always something going on.
Nowadays, that would be called grooming.
Yeah. Sadly, you're right. However, when that all kind of like came to an end and as me and Keith got older, we started to see how she supported us in other ways. Right. And that's where she really, I think, especially when we were in like middle school through high school, that's where she really shone the best and the worst of her qualities as far as being a mother. So anyways, long story short, or too late, I find the pickle recipe and through this whole time, me and Keith are making each other laugh, right? Because the only way to get through all the shit that we had to do was try to have a sense of humor about it. And then we started remembering, I think Keith was actually the one that remembered, that she always wanted us to do something together, right? So Keith was a musician, I was a comedian, not a lot of crossover as far as what we can do, but she always wanted us to work together on something, right? So then as we're, the days are going by, I'm, going through pictures or whatever, and Keith he kept saying as we were talking, because I would make smart ass remark or whatever. He's like, you should start a podcast. You should do a podcast, right? Because no matter what it was we were talking about, not only did I have an opinion on it, but usually at least it was funny enough that it made him laugh. So I said, all right, I tell you what, I'm willing to do a podcast. I'll get all the equipment, everything. But you you got to be on it with me every week. And that's how it kind of started. And then we were trying to figure out the name. Well, the fact of the matter was we struggled with the name, but we did know that we did know that as we were struggling to try to figure out the name, we knew that we had to have Elsie in there somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it just became like silliness. So we were like, coming up with crazy, weird names. And then I stumbled upon Elsie's little Pickles.
And I think that's also important because it's worth mentioning for anyone that doesn't know that you were both adopted, so from literally from your earliest days as humans, Elsie has been the binding force between you.
Right. And it would be very easy for, especially, you see this with families that are blood related, a parent dies and they kind of fall apart from each other. Well, with me and Keith, he had moved to Texas and I was on the road all the time. So it wasn't even that we didn't want to talk to each other. We just weren't talking. And this moment, this 3 months that we spent together with the funeral, it was actually longer than that. It was a total of 6 months because Keith got back October, November, December, 3 months before she died, 4 months before she died.
Mm-hmm.
And was going to be leaving shortly after she died, but was able to work it out to where he was able to stay longer. So in the course of that, we're doing all this and we just, it's almost reverse archaeology because as you're going through the pictures and that, you go from the ones that are most recent are on top and you start going through them and you see them get younger and younger and younger and younger and younger. And you start remembering things about them that you, just for no other reason you wouldn't have thought of. Now, like I said, a lot of families, a family, especially a matriarch or patriarch dies, that can actually divide the family in many ways. And you see that often, whether it's arguments over money or, possessions, whatever. This had the reverse because me and him hadn't been around each other 8 hours, 10 hours a day since we were teenagers. And we were doing this between taking care of her, taking care of our dad, and cleaning out the house, and taking care of our cousin. We were literally together 8 to 10 hours every day, whether we wanted to be or not. But in the course of that, we just started fucking talking politics. We started talking all this other stuff. And Keith kept pushing me. He was the one that really drove it. He's like, no, we really need to do this. We really need to do this. Well, finally, he's back out. I forget where you guys went to after that. I think you went to Kansas or something like that. Anyways.
No. Did we go? I think we went back to
Arkansas. I knew it. Arkansas.
Yep.
So we kept talking, and trying to, keep in touch. And then I was finishing up the house because he wasn't able to stay long enough to do everything. So I'm in the process of, I finished up all the last little minute things, got a realtor, got the house sold. And through the whole course of it, I'm running everything by him. So I'm on the phone with him now every day, 2-3 times a day as we're going through this. And we keep laughing, man. We keep having great conversations. We keep having, and it just, finally I broke down and I'm like, okay, this is going to cost a lot of money. And for those of you who do listen on the regular, thank you. Okay. We don't make a nickel off of this. We don't make anything. We're not doing any advertising. We haven't done any of that yet. We will be in the future. We will have merchandise. We will have, the website up and you'll be able to buy merchandise and
possibly even Elsie's little pickles.
Well, that's the ultimate goal. That's exactly the ultimate goal. Elsie's only wish in life went unfulfilled was actually producing her pickles. So the goal of this show is hopefully to get to a point where we can produce Elsie's little pickles, bread and butter recipe and just share it with everyone. You know what I mean? Obviously, we want to put it on store shelves and that, but they are so good that we thought, okay, well, what's kind of the goal of this? You know what I mean?
Did you find all of her recipes or just the bread and butter?
Just the bread and butter. The rest of the recipes, they had been damaged, something spilled on it. A lot of them were just destroyed. Some of them were just, they just because of age, they were just barely held together or, So the only one, and really, to be honest,
the golden ticket made it.
Yeah, the golden ticket made it. And that's the only.
Just barely.
Like, if you would have seen how bad shape that was in, and we were able to salvage it, and it was still legible enough. And the thing that was interesting though is she left off one little secret ingredient, and
Vitamin L, baby.
and Keith remembered it. So the one thing that actually made Elsie's little pickles delicious and different from all the others, had it not been for his memory, because my memory's shit. Had it not been for his memory, we wouldn't have had it. But as soon as he said it, I started saying it with him. Like, as soon as he was looking at it, he's like, there's something missing on here.
And I think you need to not say the secret ingredient.
No, we're not going to. But that's the reason for the name and the reason for the show. So the idea is,
in remembrance of Elsie, I think, I'll let you finish your thought, but I think we all need one or two stories.
Yeah. So that's the reason for the name of the show. And then we found out later that pickles have been used historically as a sign of resistance or as a protest. And that just sealed it for us, because the one thing about Elsie was she never backed away from a fight if she thought it was worth having. If she believed in something, even if she was wrong, if she believed it, she was going 100% deep into the paint on that argument. She was feisty, she was loving, but she had the ability to go toe to toe with the biggest motherfuckers and make them back down. And when I say biggest motherfucker, I'm not talking about women. I'm talking about, I watched her scream down grown men and have them cower from her. I mean, she was not a bitch to be messed with. So this is all kind of a way to do a number of things. One, it gave me and Kiefer an excuse to have to talk each week, even if it was only going to be on the podcast, which we wanted. We didn't want to fall back into the old habits. So we found this to be a good way to.
It's kind of cathartic.
It is cathartic. And it's been a way for us to honor her long past her death, and hopefully for many, many years to come. And hopefully we'll get to a point where, whether it's through Patreon or advertising dollars or donations, that we can actually put the product out there. But that's the goal eventually, is not just to have the podcast, but also to make the pickles that she was famous for.
Yeah. And I would like to just stick with the catharsis of the podcast for us as the Brewer Boys. Because, I mean, aside from your wedding, Uncle Keith, the last time that I really talked to you was when I was, aside from the podcast and your wedding, was when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
It was when I was a kid, and I remember that. I remember the day when, Grandpa took me and you. I forget if you came with us or if you met us there, but we were at Burger King, and you broke the news that I'm moving to Texas.
Yeah, goddamn that, and that would have been what, 15 years ago?
Well,
2011.
2011.
Yeah, that would have been. Yeah, it had to have been.
No, that's when he moved.
2010, 2011.
Yeah, it was 2011 when he moved.
Because it was when I was still, and I'm sure you remember this as well, but it was the 2 or 3 summers that I was too cool for summer latchkey. Essentially, like school district sponsored summer daycare.
Yeah.
For the kids in the school district. I was too cool for that. I didn't want to go, and if I had my way, I would have just been at home while you were on the road and while Mom was, driving to work every day.
I always wanted to go to Latchkey. Man, we used to have some serious kickball games.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh man.
But yeah, so it was during that like 2 or 3 summer period where I was done doing the summer daycare, because I'm an adult
and
now.
that's also when you were learning lessons in laziness from Grandpa.
Yeah, absolutely I was.
He'd be like, if you leave the garbage there long enough, somebody else will take
Someone
it out.
will take care of it.
You just got to be willing to let it go. Because
if you can't fix it with duct tape, you can't fix it, buy a new one.
Yeah, or it's just fucking broke now. That's just it.
Yeah.
You know, you can't fix
but
it.
it was during that period, because I think I stopped going to summer latchkey.
Right around
I think
9.
3rd grade or 4th grade
Yeah,
was the
something like
last
that.
year that I went.
Yeah.
And then for a couple years after that, you and Mom were still just like, no, we got to make sure that you're alive and not burning the house down. So you're gonna go spend the day
Right.
with Nana and Grandpa, and Mom will pick you up on the way home.
Right.
I remember being in latchkey and them telling me telling Mom that I might be a little too old for summer latchkey, because we would go out as a group to like a water park.
Yeah.
And one of the ladies that watched the kids for latchkey, nice looking blonde lady, not leave her alone.
You wouldn't, would you? He's getting a boner at the fucking water slide. No, we can't have this.
I'm starting to burn up. Can you put some lotion on me?
But yeah, I would say my fondest memories of Elsie truly come from that time where I was, it was those few summers that I was taken to Nana and Grandpa's house just so they could keep an eye on me, because I wasn't quite old enough to be at home alone, but I was a little too old for summer latchkey.
Like if you had to pick one like goofy memory.
Well, I got 2 for you.
Okay.
So one not so goofy necessarily, but just going and spending time with Elsie while she was working at the trailer park like storage.
Oh yeah.
Facility. Every so often
She'd take you, yeah.
Every so often she would take me, and she would just be, working, and I would just be hanging out, and it was just a good time.
Yeah, running around the fucking yard.
Yeah, like whatever. And they had a cat there, so
you were good.
It felt very much like being at Nana and Grandpa's house, because there were always cats around.
Right.
Just like at Nana and Grandpa's house, there were always cats.
I mean, we always had cats, and typically we would have 2 to 3.
And there's my goofy story. She had, when I was a child, she had this cat whose official name was Rocky.
Good old Rockhead. Rockhead.
This cat, I swear to God, was 30 pounds easy. Like morbidly obese cat, because I think it really came from
meatball.
It came from her upbringing of scarcity.
Yeah.
That she just, no matter what, anyone or anything that's reliant on me will never have to want for food.
And that's the way she was with us. I mean, and I'll get to that story, but go ahead and finish yours.
Just the goofy aspect of it was this cat, Rocky, usually a sweetheart, every so often was a little cranky, but she insisted that this cat only responded to the name Poop.
Yeah.
She insisted that this cat only responded to being called Poop.
I can picture her walking around saying that.
Oh yeah,
come here, Poop.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'll be damned if she didn't call that cat Poop, even though on paper that cat's name was Rocky.
Yeah.
And that cat would respond to Poop only for her.
Yeah. She had a way with cats, though.
Yep.
She really did. She was like a cat whisperer.
I think she's the reason that I'm a cat guy.
Oh, definitely the reason I'm a cat guy. And I'm sure the same for you, Keith. Like you can't spend that amount of time with somebody that has such a love.
I've become a dog guy. I complain and I degrade my dogs because they can't understand me.
See, I'm still a cat guy.
I love my dogs.
Yeah, no, I'm a
Can
cat.
I pet that dog?
I don't know. I don't think I'm ever going to be a dog guy. I mean, I like puppies, don't get me wrong, but take it away now. I'm good. Thank you.
Dogs are great. I love dogs. Dogs are great. But if I have the choice between owning a dog and owning a cat, I'm taking the cat 100 times out of 100.
Exactly. Same here.
I want a piece of furniture that is occasionally loving towards me.
Exactly. So to your point,
dogs have owners, cats have staff.
Yeah.
To your point about how she grew up so frugal and poor. I mean, she was fucking poor growing up.
She grew up with scarcity.
Yeah, complete scarcity. And that idea that she always wanted to feed people, that is so accurate. And
Absolutely.
that gets to my loving memory of her, because it was one of those things where, like, I spent a lot of time out of the house. I was very active in a lot of things at school. And I would literally, come home for maybe even, I didn't know. Sometimes I would just stay at school until 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, working on these different projects that we were working on. And the funny thing was, if we didn't have money to go like get, fast food or something like that, all I had to do was call, and she would come up there, and she would have made, because there was a lot of us, she would have made 4 boxes of macaroni and 2 packages of hot dogs and buns, right? And it's no bullshit. If I called within half hour, 45 minutes, she'd come pulling in, big ass tray of food, and everyone could eat. Everyone could eat. And that was the thing is like, she did not want anyone to ever go without food. She was
I got another funny memory that I would like to just point out about those couple of years, those 2-3 years that Nana and Grandpa were my daycare. That was the first time I watched a Sacha Baron Cohen movie. I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was Bruno.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. And it was because I was with Grandpa that day, and at that point, and I hope he's listening, he would take an afternoon nap, and whatever was on the TV was on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happened to be like FX or whatever that was on the TV. We were watching something, and he fell asleep during whatever we were watching. Next thing that was on was fucking Bruno.
That's funny. What about you, Kiefer?
Oh, I've got a ton of stories, but I'm going to try and condense this. One of the things that stands out in my mind was back in the day, my band, we were playing out. We had a band manager who kind of started screwing us over, stealing money, not really doing managerial type work. And
stealing money is managerial type work, but
yeah. Well, it was, like, we're getting paid. Here's a receipt, which Mom found out for us at the Ritz from Joe Neoport. Sorry if I shouldn't drop that name, but Joe would show us receipts because of Mom's insistence. And, $1,500, $1,700. We were seeing $50
in the late 80s, early 90s, right?
Yeah,
mid
90s.
Yeah.
And so we fired him, the manager, that is. And Mom started taking over, booking us. Great gigs. And one particular evening, I remember sitting at the Ritz, and a guy named Jesse from another band was making fun of us because my mom was managing us. And that just looked silly. How could I put up with that? And I looked at him and was like, who's your manager? And name dropped. And I was like, cool. Do you trust him? And he was like, oh, hell no. And I was like, I trust my manager.
Yeah.
And that's really what it boiled down to,
Yeah.
So like, it's an interesting thing because we grew up in a house where education was very, very much a priority, but it also became a thing where they both, and I would say more Mom than Dad even on this one, recognized that was just not the path that either Keith or I was going to take.
Poor Dad.
Poor Dad. Yeah. I mean, I think he really had hopes for college for both of us.
He wanted you to be a lawyer. He wanted you to be a politician.
Actually, they wanted me to be a doctor.
Yeah.
That was forever. They really thought that I was going to become a doctor. And I wasn't interested in that.
Dr. Steve, I'm sorry, sir. You've got an infected weenus.
Yeah. But in all fairness, the only thing that I would have probably done, if not for stand-up, was become a primatologist. That was something that I was, from a very early age, fascinated with.
Hey, I still can't believe you owned 2 capuchin monkeys. Well, you didn't own them. You were babysitting them.
I kept them. I had 2. Yeah, I had 2 capuchins for a period of time. The one was
Three. Me.
Yeah, well,
Why
no, you were
working in
my silverback.
primatology.
You were my silverback gorilla. But yeah, I had 2 capuchins. One was vicious, very, very like past the point of being something that you could keep in a house.
Yeah.
Elizabeth.
Yeah. And then Susie was the sweetie. Unfortunately, I didn't have Susie as long as I had Elizabeth. Elizabeth I had for about 3 weeks, I think it was.
Yeah,
3
it was
weeks.
almost a month.
It was almost a month, and Susie I only had for a couple of nights, maybe a week. But Susie was just the sweetest little capuchin. She would take a bath in the sink, and then you dry her off, and then she'd crawl up a light and be by the bulb to dry, warm up. Yeah. Super, super sweet little capuchin. Didn't recognize the fact that at that time, Elizabeth could have ripped my fucking face off. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And believe me, I mean, she would bite through welder gloves. I mean, like, this was not an appropriate animal to have inside my bedroom. But she let it happen. And that was the thing is that she understood us in ways that most people didn't. Like, she knew that she didn't want me to be a comedian, even though she knew I was funny. She knew I was different in that way, and I saw things differently. So, like, even when I asked for, Christmas, I asked for a microphone, a mic stand, a mic cord, an amplifier, and a bar stool. That's what I got, so that I could practice in my room. You know what I mean? So, like, it was one of those things where, like, we had an embarrassment of wealth when it came to toys and being taken care of. I mean, looking back and having conversations with other people, our age even.
You never wanted for anything.
No, we didn't.
Like, yeah.
No, we didn't. And it didn't really matter what she had to do to get that done, so like she'd put in the extra hours at work or she would whatever, The thing that was interesting is that she was the type of person, like, she so wanted like Christmas to be huge for us. She would literally start putting stuff in layaway, or she would put money away.
Yeah, in August she would start.
Fucking January 1st, she would start. Some years. So like later on, because the gifts, as we got older, the gifts were more expensive, and she had to have at least 10 under the tree for each of us. So like that was because she didn't have it growing up. Like like when Christmas for her would have been new underwear, new socks, maybe a new toothbrush. She would have gotten shampoo, which we would too. You know what I mean? Like that would be stocking stuffers for us. So it was always interesting because there was this mix between how she grew up and what she needed us to not experience, but also what she would go, well, yeah, but you're going to need this. You know what I mean? Even as an adult, right? Like I got to the point, I'm like, I don't want anything. Right. And she would still like, she'd go, well, you get stocking stuffers at least. Like she was offended that she couldn't spend her money on me. And I'm like, Mom, let me spend money on you. You did this already. And she's like, and it would be silly stuff. It would be shampoo. It would be socks. It would be, 25 toothbrushes. She's like, well, you're going to need that. You're going to be on
the... Especially with you special ordering your fucking like automotive steel fucking
hardcore
wire brushes.
Yeah, for my teeth. Yeah. I like a hard toothbrush. And you can't find them, so.
And he likes what is that? Coast?
Yeah, Coast.
Yeah, Coast. It's funny too. I still have one of those really hard bristle toothbrushes because I was on that for a while too. And I keep it in my boot cleaning kit. And the other day I was like looking around because I was trying to. I had some pretty old earrings and I wanted to like clean them up for my interview, right? And I ended up trying to clean them, didn't work, and it was like whatever. I'll just go buy some cheapo. It's fine, whatever. And I was looking all over for my boot cleaning kit, and I finally found it. And I showed Ashley. I was like, I used to brush my teeth with this. And she goes, "What the fuck? What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "Well, Dad brushes his teeth with it.
Yeah, damn right I do. Damn right I do.
I
Never had a cleaner feeling mouth.
Well, look, I got that way because of Elsie.
Yeah.
And say what you will, but at 85 years old, 84 years old, she had every tooth in her head.
Yep. Mm-hmm. She also would say she had such good teeth because they drank goat milk.
Yep. She was raised on goat's milk.
And I wanted to bring up also another memory, which was Halloween's. Dad would take us out. We would go all over the neighborhood with our pillowcases full of candy and the wagon that Dad would pull along.
Right.
To hold the spare pillowcases. But Mom would stay at home to give out candy to the kids. And you could hear her down the street.
Oh, yeah.
Because she would have a witch's hat on. And she had the wickedest cackle that she would do at the kids.
Yeah, and she had the big witch's nose too.
Yep.
You know, she had this
she
big fucking
German nose.
Big German nose, right? And she
Polish.
No,
she
she wasn't. She could have passed as Polish, but she wasn't Polish. I mean, she was German. And
I thought the amount of kielbasa that she would cook on the campfire whenever we were camping, I could have sworn she was Polish.
Do that.
No,
I still do that.
Yeah.
Also with their last name being Kowalski.
Yeah, but it's spelled.
There's a difference in spelling.
There's a difference in the spelling. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. There's a German spelling and a Polish spelling, and she would not let you get away.
Made Margaret Hamilton blush.
Yeah, it was amazing, and
I threw that out there. I don't know if you guys.
Wicked Witch from Wizard of Oz.
Correct. Yeah.
So, all right. Any other stories, or are we putting a pin in it?
Well, I'll just finish my thoughts on Elsie with, I know I'm not alone in saying I don't necessarily believe that there is an afterlife, but should there be, I know she's up there looking down on us. She's more than happy. She's elated with us. And, I love you, Nana. And, Grandpa, if you're listening, I love you, Beepa.
Yeah. Yeah, she would be very proud. She would.
I also have to bring up, because Steve will remember this, but by all accounts, it wasn't good spaghetti that she would make.
No. She couldn't cook for shit.
It just wasn't, but it tasted good. There was just something about it.
Did she sugar up the sauce?
I don't know what she did. I don't know what the fuck she did, but how do you fuck up spaghetti?
Her chili was good. Growing up. Honestly, I feel differently now that I've lived in Texas.
Honestly, though, I got to tell you, like, for my palate,
and her meat. Before you forget or continue, her meatloaf burgers.
Those were good. Her meatloaf burgers were good.
Yep.
But aside from the meatloaf burgers, hot dogs, hamburgers, and mac and cheese, the only other thing I ever found edible was the stuff that was canned.
Hey,
no. She made a killer
pies.
Yeah, I didn't care for them, but she did make a killer goulash. She did make a killer goulash. Yeah. Like that's something that would be the only thing I think that she made food wise. And like I said, she loved feeding people. It's just I didn't think she was a very good cook. She was great baker. She could bake.
Yes.
She was really good at baking. She was really good at canning, but cooking just a normal dinner. And part of it is because our father loved everything well done. So I didn't realize that steak wasn't supposed to crunch until I was like 15. Right? Like I didn't realize that you weren't supposed to gnaw. You know what I mean? Like I would chew a piece of steak for...
Not supposed to be boot leather?
No, I mean like it was one of those things where like...
Everything was well done.
Everything was well done. So... Chicken, like I don't think you're supposed to put a piece of chicken in the...
I dropped it and it bounced right back into my hand.
It was like chewing tobacco. You just put a pinch between your cheek and gum and you're not hungry for an hour. It was just that
also,
kind of...
I will say in her last couple of months, I had informed her that my band was on YouTube from back in the day.
Yeah.
And practicing in the storage facility, And I told her, and I showed her the video. And I was like, look, there you are back in 1995.
That's sweet.
She was standing by the door. And I was
You'll
like,
have to send me that video. Send it in our
I
group
will.
chat.
Yeah, actually,
And,
send it to me too.
And I'll send it in the chat here if that'll help.
Yeah.
But I told her, I was like, Ma, check it out. You're on the internet forever. And I just remember her sitting in her wheelchair and she said, forever? And I was like, yeah, it's forever on YouTube. And her exact words were, below me forever.
That's a perfect place to leave it. And with that, that's another Elsie's Little Pickles.